Welcome back to Fieldcraft Chronicles. Today, we're venturing into a chapter of survival history that's been buried beneath the mud and thunder of the Great War. A story not of steel and strategy alone, but of fur, feather, and an unbreakable bond forged in the crucible of the trenches. This is the forgotten fieldcraft of World War I's most loyal soldiers, the animals who carried messages through storms of shrapnel, hauled artillery through knee-deep muck, and found the wounded where no human dared to tread. Their survival techniques weren't written in manuals. They were instinct, training, and trust, lessons that still resonate for anyone who understands that true fieldcraft means adapting, improvising, and never fighting alone. Picture the Western Front in autumn 1917. Rain has transformed no man's land into a moonscape of craters filled with water the colour of rust and death. Trucks sink to their axles, wagons splinter under their own weight. Yet the guns must be fed, the wounded evacuated, the front supplied. Enter the mules, those stubborn, sure-footed survivors who became the backbone of military logistics when every mechanical advantage failed. These animals understood terrain in ways human planners never could. Their handlers learned to read their behavior like a survival manual written in muscle and instinct. When a mule refused a path, you didn't argue. That animal had detected unstable ground, hidden shell holes, or, the subtle wrongness that meant buried ordnance. Soldiers quickly adopted this ancient fieldcraft principle. Trust the senses you don't have. The mules taught them to navigate by proxy, to survive through observation rather than assumption. In the Dolomites, where Italian and Austrian forces fought vertical warfare among mountain peaks, sure-footed donkeys carried ammunition up trails where men needed both hands to climb. These pack animals became, living lessons in load distribution, energy conservation, and the critical skill of knowing when to rest. Modern bushcrafters, they obsess over pack weight and balance, but these soldiers learned those lessons by watching animals who instinctively understood that survival meant carrying only what could be sustained over distance. The pigeon lofts behind the lines were, honestly, masterclasses in animal husbandry under field conditions. Handlers maintained these birds in conditions that would challenge any modern survivalist. Limited feed, constant artillery vibration, disease pressure, and of course the knowledge that each bird represented potentially hundreds of human lives. The handlers learned to read their pigeons' health through observation techniques that actually predated veterinary science. The sheen of feathers indicated proper nutrition, the clarity of eyes revealed hydration, and the posture showed stress or, readiness. These were survival skills applied to another species, but, the principles translate directly. When Cher Ami took flight from the Argonne forest carrying coordinates that would stop friendly fire on the lost battalion, that bird was blinded in one eye, shot through the breast and missing a leg, yet still flew 25 miles in 25 minutes. The handlers who trained such birds understood something fundamental about survival psychology. Conditioning, repetition, and building trust create instincts that override even mortal fear. For soldiers in the trenches, maintaining these pigeons taught patience, routine, and the understanding that survival often depends on creatures and skills outside yourself. The lofts themselves were exercises in improvised shelter building, protecting vulnerable animals from gas attacks, shrapnel, and the elements using whatever materials the battlefield provided. The mercy dogs of World War I practiced search and rescue techniques that, well, modern canine units still refine today. These animals, primarily German Shepherds and Belgian Malinois, were trained to navigate the most hostile environment imaginable. No man's land under sporadic fire, where the smell of death overwhelmed every other scent, where poison gas lingered in shell craters, and where, honestly, movement drew instant machine gun fire. Their handlers taught them to move low, to use crater shadows, to recognize the difference between the dead and the dying. This was survival tracking elevated to its highest form. The dogs carried medical supplies in saddlebags, morphine, bandages, water, turning them into mobile aid stations. But their most profound skill was psychological, providing comfort to soldiers who knew they were dying. Handlers observed that wounded men would often survive longer when a dog lay beside them, offering warmth and presence. This taught medics and soldiers a survival principle that bushcraft sometimes forgets. Morale is as vital as medicine. The training methods for these dogs revealed sophisticated fieldcraft knowledge. Handlers used scent articles, progressive distance training, and exposure to battlefield sounds to condition the animals gradually. They understood that survival skills couldn't be forced. They had to be built through incremental adaptation, positive reinforcement, and absolute trust between handler and animal. The animals of the Great War weren't just tools or symbols. They were survival partners who taught soldiers fieldcraft lessons that transcend any single conflict. They showed that adaptation means using every resource and ally available. That communication doesn't always require technology. Loyalty and trust really do form the foundation of any survival situation. And, reading the environment sometimes means reading the creatures who inhabit it even better than you do. As you build your own fieldcraft skills, remember these lessons. The best survival techniques aren't always about what you can do alone. They're about what you can accomplish through observation, partnership, and the wisdom to learn from those who see the world differently than you do. If this deep dive into forgotten survival history resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for Fieldcraft Chronicles. Share this with anyone who understands that true preparedness means learning from every chapter of human resilience. The animals of World War I have more to teach us yet. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and never stop learning the old ways that still work when everything else fails.